you may have goals, but like you have to take care of yourself in order to reach those goals. And there was something about like a saw. It was like the person who stops to sharpen the saw is actually going to fare better than the person that doesn't stop. Casey, I have always been on this mission to be more focused and more productive. And I just started something last night. So we are on day 1. And so far, I'm 1 for 1. I'm 100% that it works.
Okay.
That I am trying to stop the scroll because I feel like that's what is it? There's like some term that this thing that I just used calls it. It's like a empty something or other. But it's like, it's just, it's emptiness, right? It doesn't do anything for you. So that like helps lull me to sleep sometimes, but I really want to stop doing that. I also want to stop having my phone on my nightstand because I want to like, in the morning, I just reach for it. And it's like the thing that like helps wake me up because then I scroll again. So now I'm trying to be like, okay, no, I'm just going to read. So I like pre-selected a bunch of things. I have them saved to my phone. I'm going to read. And then when I feel like I'm getting sleepy, I throw my phone at the end of the bed so that I can't reach it. And prior to the reading, I have created like my schedule for the morning. So it's like already planned out. And I'm like, okay, this is what I'm going to do when I wake up this morning. So I knew, okay, we have this recording this morning. I want to make sure I eat. I want to make sure I write this few emails before. And I like plans it out so that really I wake up. There's no thinking. I already know the routine that I'm getting in. And let me tell you, this morning I was quite productive so far. So like we're like 2 hours on. And
I'm so proud of you, but I am going to be the person here to say you are very productive, even when you're not productive. I'm the one that's like the non-productive one. And the thing for me is if my list gets too long, I don't chip away. It just is debilitating and I just shut down.
Yeah.
So that is my problem. And that's even what Gianna sees because she has a lot of foresight. And we've been friends for over 15 years. And she's like, I see you shutting down. I raise you this. Hold my beer. This is our plan.
Yeah.
I know
then, right. Because that when you're not productive, that creates stress. And then the stress affects your sleep. And it's like all these things. And this is a motherhood thing. This is a regular human. Like if you got blood pumping through your veins. So we have an awesome guest today, CEO and founder of Rootine, Rootine. She'll tell us all about it. Rachel Sanders has secrets for us on just that, sleep, stress, and productivity. Welcome, Rachel. We're so happy to have you here.
Thanks so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Tell us a little bit about Rootine first.
Yeah, Rootine is a company all about creating smarter health solutions for your most vibrant health. And our core products are these functional drink mixes for sleep, stress, and focus. They are all clinician formulated, clean label, and they're meant to work really quickly. So most people feel benefits, whether it's they're feeling like they can get through their to-do list faster with focus, they're falling asleep faster with sleep, or they're feeling that relaxation, that calm, and getting long-term cortisol benefits with stress. Plus, I love making little mocktails out of them and really
that's
enjoying
so cute.
that
Casey
routine.
Could really use those right now.
Yeah, you can make
give us one of the recipes.
Yeah, so the stress one that I really love to make, it's kind of like a take on a margarita almost, where I do the stress drink mix. It's flavored blood orange. I mix it with about 4 to 5 ounces of water. I always use a frother because it mixes it up the best, but you can just shake it or use a spoon. And then I'll do a half of lemon, like fresh squeezed lemon, a half of fresh squeezed lime, and I'll top it with club soda. Sometimes if I have a little orange in my house, I'll do like a squeeze of orange too, but it's this like citrusy, amazing flavor. And you can also add Himalayan pink salt on top if you want even more of that like margarita flavor.
This was a fail on our part. I should have prepped for this better. We should have had them as
I
we're
just
doing
have
this
a
interview.
ginger tea. I need some of your stuff in here because I'm literally being a COVID survivor right now as we speak. So yeah, I mean, feel bad for me.
Well, that's perfect. I feel like all moms have 3 drinks in hand at one time.
Yeah,
so this
is
100%. Like another thing
but
to add
don't
to
drink them and then never pee because you can't leave your kids because you don't want to pee because they're running away. Here's something that I want to talk about. You mentioned cortisol.
Mm-hmm.
What is cortisol? And why is everyone's so elevated? And why do we need to pay attention to it and give it its due?
Yeah. So cortisol is your key stress hormone. And the problem is the modern world, especially being moms, especially being women, we just are constantly getting stressed, whether it's stress from getting our kids out of the door in the morning to preschool or to school, or to waking up and scrolling immediately and seeing something on social or on the news that you don't really want to see, to even like artificial light, the blue light before bed.
I was going to say that you need red light. You need like a red light, reading light.
Yeah. And another thing most people don't know is that food really plays a role in our cortisol levels. And if you're eating a lot of sugary processed foods, that's spiking your blood sugar, and it's insulin creates cortisol spikes. And so the best thing you can do from a food perspective is make sure that you're eating in a way that really creates blood sugar stability. So that's a lot of protein, that's paying attention to meal timing. So if you're intermittent fasting, that's something to look at. And that's also just eating those like whole foods instead of the
What's your
processed
take
foods.
on people stopping eating oatmeal for breakfast? Because I've seen that spikes blood sugar, that can have a negative effect on cortisol. And like, I mean, we were like the overnight oats kids. Like we grew up thinking like oatmeal is like the greatest thing in the world.
It's really bio-individual, because some people can have oatmeal because it's got a lot of fiber and it's not going to spike their blood sugar as much. If I eat oatmeal, it spikes my blood sugar crazy amounts and just makes me feel bad the rest of the day. And
here's the problem. You know that. You, Rachel, know that.
Yeah.
That is not something that you drag your sorry butt to your annual doctor's appointment that you don't want to go to. And don't even get me started about your husbands that just don't go. You just make the appointments and then pay the fee.
They've just been out there living their lives and are totally fine, have not one symptom.
Like, but what do you have to do to find that out? Tell me how I find out if I should eat oatmeal or not.
So that's a CGM, continuous glucose monitor. I use one through Levels. There's also NutriSense. There's a couple of different companies, and you can just do it from your home. You sign up, you get the glucose monitor, they send it to you, you put it on your body for 10 days or 2 weeks, and you can start to test what food is really going to spike you versus not. And the most interesting part is the combinations of eating high protein, fat, complex carbs, and fiber together versus just having a complex carb. So for instance, if you eat peanut butter and banana together, your blood sugar is probably going to spike less than if you eat a banana by itself.
Wow. I'm the queen of banana by itself. But so we need to be aware of cortisol.
But why was this always a thing, or did I like not care when I was in my 20s? Like, why do I feel like all of a sudden as a mom, this stuff has become like, it really affects the body differently? Like, is there anything there physiologically that like after becoming a mother and after childbirth, your body does react differently to things?
There's something there physiologically and just from an environment perspective right now. Like CNN came out recently with a quote that millennials, especially women, it's the first time that our health is declining since the silent generation. So that's like the 30s and the 40s. So our health is actually going down. And so ever since the pandemic, there's really this mental wellness crisis that women are dealing with, especially moms, where they're more overwhelmed, they're more stressed, they're dealing with more stuff, they're burning out, they're sleeping poorly, and it's leading to all these daily issues. And you asked previously, like, why do we care about cortisol? We care about cortisol because it's not only a stress hormone, but it creates excess irritability. If you're dealing with overstimulation, which let's be honest, we all are as moms, right? Like if your cortisol is elevated, it makes it even worse. But it also goes to trouble losing belly fat, trouble just overall losing weight, gut issues, adult acne, all sorts of things that we're dealing with. Check. Yeah. I was dealing with it too. And personally, so I was okay. I have 2 kids. I have a 4.5-year-old and a 1.5-year-old. And after my 4.5-year-old, I kind of bounced back without a lot of trouble. I just like did my normal things. I was in my early 30s, like things just worked. And then I had my second and nothing worked, right? Like
I feel the exact same way.
I was doing all the things.
We're probably terrifying Casey because she's like a few weeks out from having her second, but like, don't worry, babe, you'll be fine.
It's interesting because this, like with Jack, I was eating McDonald's, I was eating banana splits, like this pregnancy and being a mom, I'm so much more health conscious. So yeah, for sure, I'm still eating Snickers bars and I'm still like having Orville Redenbacher popcorn, but like I'm so much more healthier this time around than with Jack. So I think I'm setting myself up, but I know it's still going to be hard. I know it's still going to be hard on the back end because we are getting older, but keep going.
Yeah. And it was, so for me, I gained more weight with my second. A lot of that happens with a lot of people. I was more health conscious. I was working out more, but I still gained more weight. And so I had a bunch of weight to lose, like over 50 pounds. And I was doing the things, like I was eating well. I was doing my walking. I was doing my strength training, and the weight kind of came off, but then it just stopped. And that's around the same time that Routine, we have at-home lab tests as well, and our cortisol
Where
test.
did it stop? So you said you had 50 pounds. Like how much were you able to take off the Rachel normal way?
Probably like 10, 15 pounds of it.
So you had a lot to go. I mean, that's not.
No, I had a lot to go. And it was frustrating, right? Like I'd kind of plateaued. And around that time we were developing our cortisol test. And at that point I didn't know a ton about cortisol. And then that was really when I like deep dived into this. And my cortisol was crazy imbalanced. So it's supposed to spike in the morning and then come down at night so that you have this natural overall 24-hour rhythm where you're awake during the day and you're sleeping at night. And mine was too low in the morning and too high at night. So it was just crazy wrong. And as I dug into the research more, we have our in-house clinicians and clinical nutritionists kind of explaining all of this. It's like, that was my problem. Like my hormones, my cortisol was really out of whack. But then with pregnancy, my overall hormones were likely out of balance too at that point. I didn't test those, but cortisol is this major hormone that sits, if you think about a food pyramid, it sits on the bottom. And so cortisol, insulin, oxytocin, those are your major hormones. All of the other like estrogen, progesterone that we always hear about, those are on top of that. So if your cortisol is out of balance, everything else can be messed up. And it just creates this like cascade of biological issues. And pregnancy also messes with hormones. So it's really hard postpartum, and my experience this way too, to get all of that working again and just make it all.
Because it's not offered to you. We're America, and we want everything fast, and we want it now, and we want it given to us. And, you know, I pat myself on the back when I go to my 6-week checkup, and I'm like, okay, I did it. Like I'm clear. I can work out, yada, yada, yada. But that's it. Then you fall off a cliff and you're by yourself. So if you don't get, Gianna's on this health journey, I'm on this health journey, Rachel, you clearly are too. And I know a lot of our listeners are, you have to do the homework. You have to add 10 more things to your plate to find out what all your hormone levels are. And then
I think that's what the most frustrating, that's what the most frustrating part of it is. It's like we spend our life saying we're sick, there's something wrong. We go to the doctor. There's generally some type of answer. There's generally something to help.
Birth control.
Then this is like a whole, right.
Or it's motherhood. It's normal. Like you're supposed to be fatigued. No, you're not.
Give yourself time. Look how beautiful your baby is. You'll be fine. It's almost Christmas. You're fine.
Yeah. I mean, I heard it too, right? Like, oh, it'll just come off, all the things. And that's when you have to invest in yourself. But when it comes to cortisol, what's really great is that it doesn't actually have to be hard to fix a lot of these things or start to implement simple tips and tools and products that can really make a huge difference.
What are they? Like, give us like top 5 immediate quick responses.
So our stress product is one of my favorites. It's made up of adaptogens like ashwagandha and rhodiola that have been research proven to really support your overall stress response, lower your cortisol. Plus it's blended with 2 other adaptogens, astragalus and ginseng, and combined it creates this really, really strong synergistic effect to not only make you feel calm. So it's completely replaced my wine at the end of the day after I put my kids to bed. But it's also got this long-term cortisol balancing effect. So that's amazing. When it comes to workouts, and this is really bio-individual too, but one of the things that I was doing that I realized later was really wrong is I was just upping my intense cardio, because that's what I did in my 20s. I just did cardio. And especially for women in their 30s, so 35 to 55 and like plus or minus a couple years there is a woman's peak cortisol imbalance years. And so I was getting close.
Just turned 35 last week. Awesome.
So I was like close to / like in it now, but that can really exacerbate your cortisol imbalance if you're doing a ton of high intensity cardio. And so I switched to focusing more on walking. So getting more steps. I got a walking pad for my desk. I try to go outside and walk, and then adding in more strength training. So instead of doing like 4 days a week of intense cardio, I'm doing 3 days a week of strength training and 1 day a week of intense cardio, because I still kind of like it. I'm still a class girly at heart. And so that's another thing. And then light. So our like natural light and being outside in nature plays a big role in natural stress relief. I know a lot of people hear like morning sunlight. That helps with that cortisol awakening response because as soon as light hits your eyes, it signals to the body, hey, it's time to wake up.
It's time.
So it helps with that natural rhythm. But even just getting outside throughout the day is really helpful. I think there's a stat like 92% of our time is spent inside. And that's not natural. And so the more you can just get outside, like go for a 5-minute walk at lunch or just like go sit outside in the sun, even if it's bad weather, just like try to get outside a little bit more. It really helps with natural stress relief. And then my favorite tip—
I will say having kids has certainly helped me with that because it's like I want to get them outside. So I'll get myself outside with them.
Exactly.
It's definitely like otherwise I wouldn't normally just be like, oh, I'm going to go for a walk down the street. But with the kids, I'll be like, oh, let's go outside and like kick a soccer ball around or get in their little electric cars or something. So
and
that
something for me that happened this summer, because I was doing way more of that, right? Like I was trying to schedule my day where I was waking up earlier and working and then like being outside more with my kids. And I noticed that I was sleeping so much deeper and so much better. And that's one of the biggest things with cortisol is if you have high cortisol, it really impacts your sleep. Where like as soon as I hit my 30s, I was waking up every night at 2 a.m., sometimes having trouble going back to sleep. But then like this summer, I'm like outside, I'm at the beach, I'm like running around my kids. And all of a sudden, it's not like I'm working out more. It's just like I've been outside and like doing things and like playing, which is so important. I was sleeping better. And it's such a difference if you just implement those and try to do it throughout your day.
What was the last one you were going to say? Because then I then have a question about that too.
Yeah. So one of the things that there's a huge debate around caffeine in the morning. There is a lot of research. There is a lot of research around what caffeine does to cortisol, when you drink caffeine, waiting to drink caffeine, all the things. I will tell you what I do. I still have coffee. I have 1 to 1.5 cups. I'm done by 8 a.m. I don't have any caffeine or coffee the rest of the day. And I try to drink 40 ounces of water and electrolytes before my coffee. Because when you wake up, your body is the most, 40. So you're full Stanley. Drink a Stanley plus electrolytes, then have your coffee because your body's
What time do you wake up?
Like 6:15.
What time do you go to bed?
I start winding down at like 9:30 and I'm like basically falling asleep by 10:15ish.
Wow, you are regimented.
Yes.
See, 6 a.m. is still like the middle of the night for me. Like I struggle really hard. I can do it certainly, but then like I will be dying by the end of the night, and then I'm just one of those people, you know, I learned from a sleep doctor that I used to work with that like it's literally in your DNA. Have you found this where it's like, you're either a night owl or you're one of those people that can have a run off of 3 to 4 hours of sleep and be totally fine. And I am just not one of them.
Yeah, I'm not one of them either. The reason I wake up at 6:15, I would sleep until like 7:30 or 8 if I could. And I used to do that when my oldest would sleep. But she started waking up at like 6:30, between 6:30 and 7. And I figured out that if I wake up to her like coming in my door and like screaming at me and asking for things, my entire day is thrown off. And so I like, for my own sanity, for my cortisol levels, just to make sure I'm like being able to do stuff during the day, I have to have like a second before she wakes up, or else like shit hits the fan.
I totally agree with that.
You need to drink your 40 ounces and pee 6 times and then make your coffee. One thing I wanted to bring up. So for me, and I don't know if this is an ADHD thing, I don't know what it is, I don't know if it's a pregnant thing, my mind races at night. Like I am making lists. I'm like doing last minute things. I'm like checking things on my phone before I go to sleep. Like I can't fall asleep. And then if I do get up at 2 a.m. to go pee, again, with the racing thoughts and, I have to do this. Oh my God, I forgot about this. And like making lists. So is that a cortisol thing? Like, is that a domino effect?
Yeah, that's a cortisol thing. It can also be if you have ADHD, I've seen research around that's like part of it.
She absolutely does.
But there is,
and I am raging unmedicated.
There is, then you need to try Focus if you are, but,
is that pregnancy safe? I'm assuming all your stuff is.
You need to ask your doctor.
Okay.
I don't give recommendations around. Yeah.
Did you take it when you were pregnant?
We actually didn't have these products when I was pregnant. So I did not. I know. But to your point, yes. So that it can be a neurodivergent thing, but it can also be a high cortisol thing. And one of the things that can really that a lot of people use to combat that is melatonin. But melatonin has all sorts of issues, especially with my experience. Melatonin helps me fall asleep, but I like basically get knocked out.
And I have freaky achy dreams.
Weird ass dreams. I wake up in the morning feeling super groggy, very, very drugged. And it can also, there's new research coming out. If you're taking melatonin on a daily basis, it can disrupt your body's natural hormone balances.
Oh.
And so it's good for certain health issues, certain like conditions, and specifically if you're dealing with really bad jet lag. But we formulated our sleep product to be melatonin free, so that it's really, it helps kind of like put the brake on that racing thoughts. It gives your body like a full body relaxation with the magnesium in there. And then we have L-theanine, which helps with relaxation, phosphatidylserine, that's the like brain break. And it just helps you kind of like drift into sleep without like getting knocked out, like a lot of like the melatonin or the other sleep aids that people will feel. And I wake up feeling completely rested and not groggy, which is really key for me, because you talk about productivity, talk about focus. Like I can't do anything if I take a sleep aid and wake up the next morning and I'm just like in a fog all day.
Yeah. Yeah. Case, I don't know, maybe try what I did last night. I felt like that really helped me, like all the racing thoughts I had about things that I needed to do. I was like, okay, well, here's my plan for tomorrow when I'm going to address them.
Right.
So it's okay. Like there's nothing that can be done about this right now, but I am proactively planning to do it tomorrow. Yeah. So it's being handled. And like, as for right now, I just need to let go and sleep.
I know.
That's true. Journaling
is a really good place to do this, but I do it in a really specific way, because I'm one of those people too that like has constant lists running through my head. I'm a mom of two, running a business, like doing all the things. Like I've just got a lot of going on all the time. Excuse my language. But yeah, what I will do at the end of the day, especially at the end of the workday, is I will just like brain dump like all the things that have been going through my head and like what I actually have to do. Sometimes I'll even do that like as I'm winding down as part of my wind down routine if I've been really busy, because then it's written down and I'm not worried about forgetting it. And I also do that prioritization thing too, where I have like 1, 2, or 3 things where I'm going to do that first thing. So I try not to even look at my email or look at my Slack before I get those 2 things done in the morning.
Yes.
Because then you're just like moving stuff forward. Because you know
there's going to be other fires waiting for you.
Yeah. Like, I don't want to see a fire. I also know that if there is a really bad fire, someone's going to text me or call me.
Yes.
Yeah. And so I don't need to look at the like half fires until I move that one thing forward, which helps with stress. It helps with productivity. And it also helps with that like racing mind in the middle of the night. Granted, you are pregnant and I did not sleep at all when I was pregnant for the like last 6 months. So I don't have a lot of recommendations for that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I just need to wait it out for 6 more weeks.
For me, what happens sometimes is there are some, I think it's because my schedule isn't the same all the time. Like I'm fortunate that some days I'm working and some days I am a mom and I get to just be with my kids. But on the day, and like on the days that I say I'm a mom, it's like that email can wait. It's totally fine. I'll get to it when I can. But on the days when I'm working, I'm like, if I'm not addressing this right now, like something's going to go wrong. And I'm like, but it doesn't matter because like tomorrow I'm going to do it. Or yesterday I didn't look at it until 4 and it was totally fine. So there's this thing that I've started saying to myself, stolen time, of like, this is stolen time right now. The fact that I'm even like up and being productive and addressing work, like whenever I get to it is okay. Mm-hmm. So it's okay for me to take that break to go make myself the protein smoothie that's actually going to make me feel better in the long run, right? Or like Casey made a joke about like even going to the bathroom. I can't tell you how many times, even before this interview, I was like, do I have time? Should I go to the interview or should I go to the bathroom or should I just wait until after? Like, and then something else would have happened that I would have forgot. And then it's like 2:00 and I still never went to the bathroom from when I had to at 10:30 today. Like we tell ourselves everything is stress and pressure and whatever, but like there are other times where when we allow ourselves to shut that off and everything's fine. So I'm trying this whole like stolen time. This is stolen time. I'm allowed to do this right now. Like it's okay. But it's that I think is really
hard.
Like,
that's a mountain to climb in itself. And I actually, to your point, to back that up, I did just read something that one of the easiest ways, I mean, there are a lot of ways, but one of the easiest ways to bring your cortisol down is to slow down.
Yep.
Like when you're rushing, oh my God, I have to get on this call. It's like, okay,
yes,
maybe I'll just be 2 minutes late and I'm going to make my coffee or I'm going to make my electrolyte water if I didn't drink my 40 ounces, or I'm going to pee and then I'm going to go on the call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And no one's
so
going to
Rachel,
die.
how is it for you handling all of this, that like this is your business and this is what you do day in and day out? Like, does your body still automatically want to default to some of those things that we've been talking about, like the rushing around or the thinking you need to respond to things immediately?
Yeah, I mean, I'm struggling with this constantly. I just know better now. I don't know if that's better or worse, but I started my career in investment banking. And so for anyone here who doesn't know the ins and the outs of the finance world, but basically you're working 100-hour weeks and you're always on.
Chill.
Yeah, it's not it's not chill at all. And it's basically ingrained in you. And this is my first job out of college. So this is my like foundation of career, that you are always on, you are always checking your email, you are always available. And my exec coach said something to me, I guess like a couple of months ago. And she's like, that's not your life anymore. And it doesn't have to be your life.
Yes.
The world is different. Your job is different.
Yes.
That's not something that you need to feel. And so that's something I constantly am struggling with. And I'm trying different ways to like unplug and do that and be more productive and less constantly on. It was okay with my first kid, but now with my second, my daughter's now in preschool. We have like soccer practice on the weekend. There's just more going on in my life that I need to be a lot more specific around. All right, do I actually need to check my email on Saturday morning? Or am I going to see something that's going to make me angry for the rest of the weekend unless I deal with it? The answer is like, no, I don't need to check my email on Saturday morning because I have an amazing team. And if somebody notices something is broken, I'm going to get a phone call about it. And yeah, I'll probably have my phone on me, but like that's a boundary, and kind of thinking about it that way is really important.
I 100% resonate with everything that you just said. I had a 10-year career in PR and crisis PR, medical PR during a global pandemic. So yes, if an email wasn't answered, then like there could be some serious problems. And I'm like 2 years out from that, and I'm still trying to like come down from the high pretty much. And Case, I wonder if you feel the same way, obviously being in the news industry and everything being so fast paced and very much dependent on responses and timeliness and all of that. So it's something that my husband and I have been talking about for a long time, and just also other aspects of my life. And that I was in fight or flight for a very long time. And he's like, you don't have to be it there anymore. Yeah. And like, that's on you.
Did he recognize that by himself?
Yes. It was actually, I don't even know if I've spoken to you about this like offline, but it was one of the most like very powerful, life-changing conversations that I think I've had to date just recently, that I was like, oh, like that's what that is. Like not about the career stuff, because that I've always known in the last couple of years. And I've talked to other colleagues that are like feeling the same thing. Like it's really hard for everybody to unwind when you, like you said, Rachel, we're in that environment for so long and like that's how you functioned. But also about just like other things in my life of almost feeling like, okay, I have to make this work. I have to make this work. I have to make this work. And my husband was like, but like you did, like, we have a beautiful family. We have the beautiful kids. They're thriving. Everything is okay. Like it's time to stop fighting. Like you can calm down now. And that I was just like, oh my gosh.
But it's just somebody that you respect and who you love saying that. That's it.
Yeah.
Like the power of people around you seeing that you are in a cage and like trying to get out.
Yeah.
Just acknowledging it is a big first step. And that's why your support system is so big.
Yeah. And I think that these conversations are so important. I think having mom friends are so important because it's somebody that understands what you're going through, but can see you so differently than you see yourself. And like you said, Case, like have somebody that you respect to say those things to you. And you're like, wait, should I like consider that? Because I would have never thought that of myself. But
so even the other day, we got a pod shipped from Florida. All of our storage is in Florida, shipped up here with like all baby stuff. And our organizer in Florida packed it up for us. And there was a lot of stuff in there that we didn't need. And a lot of stuff wasn't in there that we needed. So I was just kind of like, my head was spinning around. Like it was 85 degrees outside. I'm hot. I'm sweating. And Eric comes out like, I'm going to go help my wife. Comes out and he's like, hey, can I help? And I was like, there's nothing in here that we need. And there's all this stuff. And now I have to store it. And we don't have any room in the basement. And like, he's like, okay, all right, give me a hug. Come here. It's going to be okay. Like, calmed me down. And then like we were retelling the story to my mom later. And he was like, yeah, the old me would have just like walked away, checked out. He's like, but in that moment, I just knew she needed a hug and like, it's going to be okay. And that was all I needed. And then I was just like, oh, there's no tiger. I'm fine.
Good.
I'm not in danger. No one died.
Yeah. And
but it takes a while to get to that point with your partner.
100%. And the other thing too that I think a lot of people forget about is if you're a mom building a business, you have a podcast, or you're building a personal brand, or you're building a company, or you're just trying to kind of be a working parent and have some sort of career, what we're saying doesn't mean you have to like not work on the weekends, or you have to not work at night, or you have to not work at this certain time. It's being really strategic about the work that you are doing. Because if you're answering emails constantly on Slack, constantly like basically dealing with other people's problems, you're not actually pushing the work that you want to be doing forward. So for example, I, about 9 months ago at this point, was like, all right, I'm going to build a personal brand. I'm going to become a thought leader online. I have all these experiences. I want to share them. I want to help people. If I spent all of my time answering people's emails, there's no way that I would have had time to build that brand. Now I have over 105,000 followers across. I have a newsletter. Like, that's the kind of stuff that you can push forward. And that's also the kind of stuff that I work on at night, because I like work after the kids go to bed. But instead of answering emails or trying to like deal with other people, I'm like, all right, what's like the strategy I want to think through? What's this like one project I want to push forward? And then by doing that, you're not in fight or flight as much, because you're actually getting the work done that you want to be getting done. And you're not constantly like hearing other people's crises that also spikes you. So it's not to say you don't have to work, or like if you want to be working, just be strategic about what you're doing and when you're doing it, so that you can.
And it's like a snowball too. Like the more productive you are, the better you feel about yourself, the more productive you're going to be, because you feel good about what you're doing. What are some like productivity tips that you can give us? Like, how did you get to that?
Yeah. A couple of things. So one of my favorite, we've talked a little bit about it, but is really thinking about that brain dump at night, and having that prioritization list is really important for me. I also do a lot of time blocking of my calendar. So I'm really strategic throughout the week of what I'm doing when. Mondays, we do our internal calls with our company. So that's the time I'm doing like an all sync. And then I'm also back to back in like department syncs. But then Tuesday, I typically have a deep work day where I don't have any meetings. This is when I like allow my brain to be more creative. I can work on things as long as I need to work on them. That's also like strategic planning day. It's when I can zoom out on the business and think about what's next, which is really critical as a CEO. If I'm constantly in the business, it's really hard to work on the business. Friday, I typically try to do no meetings as well. And that's when I'm like cleaning up the rest of the rest of the week. So that day I am like going through emails, like doing all the tasks, like trying to get through my task list. And another thing that I do to really help get through that afternoon is I work out between 2:30 and 3:30 is when I typically will start my workout. And I do that because my natural like circadian rhythm, the way that my head works, brain works, my brain just like stops working around that time. And so if I'm not doing something else, I'm just sitting on my computer. I'm probably scrolling.
Yeah, my brain calls that nap time.
Yeah, exactly. So my brain just like doesn't work. So I take focus, which is really helpful. It's got choline, which 90% of women are deficient in. So it really helps with cognitive function. It's also an energy thing. And then I work out, and then I get back to my desk. And that allows me to have more creativity. I'm way more productive when I get back. But that goes back to that mindset thing, is like, am I allowed to work out in the middle of the day during the day of my work? And the answer is like, yes. Like, that allows me to be a better CEO. It allows me to produce better content. It allows me to be more creative and problem solve better if I can have that time in the middle of the day. Because otherwise I'm just like sitting there doing nothing, like truly doing nothing.
Yeah, I will sometimes, and it's like something I read recently had said that it's like, you have to take care of you may have goals, but like you have to take care of yourself in order to reach those goals. And there was something about like a saw. It was like the person who stops to sharpen the saw, it like is actually going to fare better than the person that doesn't stop.
Goes through it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, I sometimes see like stopping to eat, stopping to work out, stopping to put my laundry away, like whatever it is, as like a burden. But like, that's the stuff that actually will like set me off on a better course if I do it. But that's been like a long, I was like that in my career though, too. Like same thing. Like I wouldn't eat until 3:00. My boss would just have to check on me. Like, have you eaten something yet? Cause I'm not peeling you off the floor today.
Well, if you see the dishes in the sink or you see all the clothes piled up, it's Casey Smith said that like after postpartum, not getting her nails done was a visual reminder that she didn't take any time for herself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's like, and dishes and wash are not all yours. I remind you. However, it does make you feel better when they are done and out of the way and out of sight and your house is tidy. So that does make sense. If I work out too late in the day, I will think about that workout all day and it will be debilitating to me.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on who you are. I automate my workouts. So I use an app that's like a virtual personal trainer.
That's
and
cool.
It's called Future. They set my workouts every single day and all I have to do is show up. And I figured out with workouts.
What's that app called?
It's called Future.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And my biggest blocker with getting my workout in is I actually love working out. I love lifting weights. It makes me feel really good. I've always been an athlete, but I just didn't know what to do. And that was almost like this unsurmountable obstacle that would happen in my life every day. And yes, personal trainers
analysis
are great.
Paralysis.
Yeah, exactly. Personal trainers are great. I've had them before. They're crazy expensive. And
you also lose a whole hour traveling to and from.
It's like, it's a whole thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when I discovered this, and I've been using it for almost, I guess, over 2 years at this point, I used it throughout my pregnancy, my second pregnancy, and it has kept me insanely consistent because I just know I have that like date with myself. So this goes back to productivity and calendaring everything. Like I will put, if I'm going to like go through emails, like that's on my calendar. If I'm going to work out, that's on my calendar.
Yeah.
So I keep this date with myself, but I don't have to think about it. And that goes back to like automation of try to automate like literally everything. Decision fatigue is real. I think we're making like 32,000 decisions a day. So now I eat the same breakfast every morning during the week. I don't try to mix it up with meals. I have this like rotating list of like 5 or 6 meals that I will like make during the weekday. That's just like in my head. It takes 30 minutes or less. I don't have to look up recipes. I don't have to like think about where the ingredients are. I just like know it because it's automated. And so
here's a question on that. So let's shift to like being a mom.
Yeah.
What are strategy or productivity or scheduling things or even health things that you've implemented with your 1.5 and 4.5-year-old that make them better or make them fire on all cylinders?
That's a great question. We're a big proponent of naps and rest time, even with my 4.5-year-old. So she kind of dropped naps, but I still think that having that time during the day is crazy important. Both my husband and I are people who need our like alone recharge time, and our kids are the same. And so if they don't get that, they become epic disasters.
Mm-hmm.
And we also we are not perfect with the nutrition by any means, but there is a ton of research around sugar crashes and like blood sugar imbalance creating a lot of behavioral issues and or just like fits with kids. And so we try to feed them what we're eating for the most part. Granted, I mean, they still have snacks. They still do that thing, but it's a vast difference between when they're at our house or when they're at my mother-in-law's house, who she raised kids in like the 80s and 90s and like loves all the things that I would never buy.
I fed it to you and you turned out fine shirt. And we know that there's 100 more ingredients in it now. Okay.
Yeah. And she like loves babies and doesn't love them not being with her when they're at her house. So like maybe doesn't love nap time. And so you can really see the difference.
Every day it's like, Jack's not going to nap today. Gemma's here. Like, it's just not happening.
Yeah. So you can really see the difference in those things. And we also try to like make sure they're getting outside, getting that light in.
But what do you do with your
around.
4.5-year-old? Like, do you just put her in a room? Like, how do you assure that she has me time and isn't just like drawing with Sharpies on the wall?
She's drawn stuff on the wall before.
She's a girl, so it's different.
She is a girl.
First of all,
she is a girl.
Like if Jack doesn't want to nap, it's like,
come
get me.
She's a girl. I mean, she grew up during COVID when we were all in the house. So she was born January 2020. COVID hit March of 2020. So the first like year and a half.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we were kind of all in the house all the time. And so this concept of rest time when other people were around is just something she understood. She still naps like a couple of days a week, maybe one day on the weekend. But if she's not napping, she's like playing with Barbies in her room or she's coloring. There are days where she'll go to the bathtub and decide to do some individual water play, and there will be water all over our house. But at least like she's it is what it is, and she's by herself. And it'll work most days. It's not like an everyday thing. And then there's some days where maybe my husband and I have been out late, or like I'm not feeling well. Like this past weekend, I am getting over a cold, and I was like, "Do not come in our room before I come get you. Like you will be in trouble. There will be a lot of punishments. Like." Mommy needs her rest. And like she listens.
And she listens?
For the most part.
Right.
Yeah.
That's nice. What's that like? Tell me about your best or favorite advice that somebody gave you in motherhood.
In motherhood.
Or maybe even just for your business or for like balancing, you're making yourself feel better. Like just some piece of advice that's always stuck with you.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone really ever gave this to me, but it's something that I say a lot, and it's something that's really helpful for me, is this like concept of you are still you, even being a mom. And I heard like bits and pieces like before becoming a mom, but as someone who invested a lot into her career, who really believes being a working parent is both beneficial for myself and for my kids, not having that guilt of like investing time in yourself, whether that's self-care, whether that's telling your daughter to stay in her room because mommy needs to take a nap. Like, I don't feel bad about that because it's actually teaching both of my kids, my daughter and my son, to stick up for themselves, to pay attention to what their needs are.
Yeah.
And that's something I always tell people who are like becoming a mom, especially my friends. So I went to business school. So a lot of my friends from business school, I became a mom like slightly before they did. And that was one of the things I would say is like, look, if you want to go back to work like 2 or 3 weeks after you have a baby because it's better for your mental health, or you want to figure out a way to work for 2 hours, like figure it out. Like if that's good for you, like do that, because you're not going to be the best mom for your kids or the best partner if you're feeling burnt out and like resentful of things and stressed all the time. Like you have to figure out what works for you and actually take that time. And so that's like bits and pieces of advice I've gotten from others. And then
that's fabulous advice. And I feel like we should have that like branded somewhere across like every building in the US for women to be able to see. But you said something earlier in terms of like the cortisol stuff. You said this term like biospecific. And is that what you said? I feel like that's something with like working too. Like that's a very biospecific thing. And we need to be able to understand that just because one mom does one thing, it doesn't mean that it's not okay for another mom to do something different. Like, I think that's still a like socio thing that we're kind of trying to break away from. You know, this thing of like the 50s of you're a mom, you stay at home, you put a pot roast on the dinner table every night for your working husband. And it's just not that way. But for the women that still want it to be that way, that's okay. Like we can all have our own lane, and we should support the women who want to be, who have dreamt of this their whole life and want to be stay-at-home moms and want to cater to every bit of the baby's needs. Like if that fills your cup, then that's great. Just in the same way that going back to work 2 weeks later, like the woman wanted to have a baby, but also doesn't need to be there for every single waking second of their day. Like that's okay too. And it's just all about supporting women in whatever way that they choose motherhood for themselves.
Exactly. And it's all about context too, right? So with my first, I went back to week after 2 weeks, which I would not recommend. But I did it in a way that like worked for me. With my second, I took a little bit longer time. I have a business. I was a founder of a business, small team, etc. But I work from home. I went back part-time initially. So I wasn't working like normal hours all the time. And I was still like able to breastfeed all day if I wanted to. I was like able to pump if I wanted to. Like I was able to do it in a way that worked for me and felt really good for my own soul. Because I also was someone who was like, if I'm only doing this all day, every day, and like not thinking about like not returning to work, like I think I would have gone crazy because it would, especially with my first, it would have felt like such a departure from who I was that it was almost like really helpful to have that like other piece. It's like, I actually have to go get this done. And this is something that I was doing before I had you. And like, this is good. But I also knew like she was taken care of. I could hear her. She was around all day. Like I had time with her. I would eat lunch with her. Like there was a way to do it for me that really worked. And not enough people kind of talk about that or think about that, or like, they're like, you know what? Like I would really like to have like 2 hours to like work on something and feel like I'm progressing. And that's great. Like do that, figure out a way to make that work for you. And don't, if you're not taking a 12-week or a 6-month maternity leave because that doesn't feel right for you, like fine, great, do that.
Yeah. There's a lot that we as women have to help ourselves get comfortable with, but sleep, stress, productivity, focus, all of that you can help yourselves with Rachel's company, Rootine. Tell our listeners how they can connect with you and Rootine and purchase some of your products.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Rachel SOP Sanders, and you can find my newsletter with all sorts of simple tips, tricks across cortisol, sleep, focus, productivity, all the things, little behind the scenes on startup building as well. And then you can find Rootine at rootine.co, on all social at routine_co. And you can find our products, of course, on our website, but we're also live on Amazon and TikTok.
Ooh, love great. That. Okay, we'll add that to our Amazon storefront. Love a good Rachel. Amazon haul.
Prime 2-day
Thank
shipping
you so much
cannot be beat.
Yes, exactly. Well, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So I've definitely been in my feels lately, and it makes me really happy that I have a therapist that I know and love and trust, because I just can't imagine going through life without a therapist at this point. You actually had me laughing so hard, Casey. I was listening to one of our episodes and you reference your therapy.
Therapy, it's the plural of therapist. I made it up and it sticks. So I have 3 currently.
Yeah. I mean, there's no shame in our game. We think that therapy and mental health services are so important. So grateful that BetterHelp is a sponsor of the show. We want to make sure that you and our audience has access to it as well. All you have to do is go to betterhelp.com/motherup, and you can get access to licensed therapists who are trained to listen and give you that helpful, unbiased advice. I mean, I know that you have us, but unfortunately we can't directly talk to you through the podcast, but you go to their site, you answer a few questions, and they match you to somebody who has years of experience, who is helping people just like you in a way that fits you. So whether it's somebody that is faith-based, or if you prefer a certain gender, I mean, they really get specific in how they can select a therapist for you. You do it all from your phone or computer, video calls, phone calls, messaging,
and
however you feel
demand.
the most comfortable. You'll be matched with somebody usually within 48 hours, so you can get started fast for those issues that really just can't wait. So thank you to our sponsor, BetterHelp. Let them connect you to a therapist who could support you, all from the comfort of your own home. Visit betterhelp.com/motherup and enjoy a discount of 10% off of your first month on us.